Oh la 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 bam bam. Oh la 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 bam bam. Oh la 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 bam bam. Oh la 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 big it up. Oh la 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 big it up. Oh la 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 bam bam. Bir ba 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 bir ba bir de. Bir ba ba ba. Bir ba mi de. Bir ba 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 bir ba 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 bir ba mi de. Bir ba ba ba.
I want to welcome you to Home and Away Jamaica. Today's episode, we are going to be discussing all the benefits and wonderful things about NHT, its history, and basically all the wonderful things that NHT has to offer. My name is Paulette Price, and my co-host is Robert Taylor, who's an attorney at law. I'm in real estate. And I'd like to start off by introducing Dwayne from NHT, who's going to give us an overview of what NHT does, for those of you who don't know, and we will try to ask him all the questions that you may want to ask. So welcome, Dwayne. Thank you very much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit more about NHT for those people who don't really know about NHT. They know of NHT, but they don't really know what you do.
Right. So the National Housing Trust is an institution we refer to as a statutory body, and it was established in 1976 with a mandate of increasing and enhancing the stock of available housing in Jamaica. Essentially, what we do is that we provide loans to build, buy, or to improve houses. We also are a construction institution. So it's what we generally refer to as a housing finance institution. So there's a financing arm where we provide loans to our contributors who want to build, buy, or improve houses here in Jamaica. And then there's a construction arm of the business where we actually build the houses. We build housing schemes, we build developments that we put on the market for sale to our contributors as well. In addition to those primary functions, the NHD also assists with in terms of developing the housing landscape in Jamaica. We're not a regulator, but we do have some influence where housing policy is concerned. And so we have a role in that regard where we either promote proper building systems, construction, economic activity, and just general way of life for people. So that pretty much sums up what we do at the NHD.
Okay, so one of my questions would be, because I work with a lot of people who are buying property, and I always ask them, are you contributing to NHT? And some of those people, actually quite a lot of those people, are living in the diaspora, America, Canada, UK, etc. And some of them don't even realize that they can still be contributing. So can you tell us more about that?
Definitely. So we have three categories of contributors. We have our employees who are contributors under what we call a PAYE, pay as you earn system. So that's where you're employed to a company and the company makes deductions on your behalf and pay over those deductions on a monthly basis to the NHD. For those PAYE contributors, it's a 2% of their monthly gross income that is deducted from their salary and paid over to the NHD. Then we also have our second category of contributors who are our self-employed contributors. As the name suggests that they are the business owners, they are the artisans, they are managing businesses. And those individuals, they contribute 10% of their gross quarterly earnings to the NHD, and they make those payments as well on a quarterly basis. And then the third group of contributors now are our voluntary contributors. And as the name suggests, these are individuals who don't necessarily have to contribute to the NHD. It's a Jamaican statutory body. So by law, if you're in Jamaica, you're between the ages of 18 and 65, you're working at least a minimum wage, you must contribute to the NHD. But if you're a Jamaican living in the diaspora, that rule doesn't apply. Hence, we categorize those contributors as voluntary. Many of them would perhaps They're away for a while, but they have plans to either come back to Jamaica or they want to assist some family members back here in Jamaica with home ownership. And so they contribute as voluntary contributors, and they make a payment of 3% of their declared income on a monthly basis. And so those are the three categories of contributors. PAYE, locally based, they work in Jamaica, they have employers in Jamaica, self-employed persons, and our voluntary contributors who are primarily our Jamaican brothers and sisters who are living abroad.
Okay, so the people who pay voluntarily, is that money refundable at all after a certain time?
Yes, the same principle applies. So we always like to say, and not like to say, it is the truth. The NHT is not a tax. It is not a tax. We collect refunds on an annual basis. We hold them in trust for 7 years, and they become refundable in the 8th year. And they are refundable with an interest rate of 2% per annum. So over a 7-year period, you really and truly get back 14% on whatever contributions that were deducted from you in a particular year. And that's the same for all our category of contributors. We do not treat, there's no discrimination there. So all our contributors, once you've made a contribution to the NHT, your contributions are eligible for refund.
And what about people who have missed payments? They may have, something happens in life and they haven't contributed for, say, 6 months, but they're back on track and they want to get going again, and they're ready to buy again. So what do? How do they get back on track?
Okay, what we look at, we look at two factors where eligibility for an NHT loan is concerned. Yes, you have to be of earning ability to be able to repay the loan. Yes, there's that. And there's also the age factor. You have to be between the ages of 18 and 70. Thereafter, we look at contribution status and contribution history. So where contribution history is concerned, we look for at least 1 year worth of contributions. 1 year. And that 1 year doesn't have to be one consistent year. It can be 6 months this year, 6 months next year, 6 months some time ago. As long as when we look at our books, we can account for 1 year contributions, then they would have passed that first eligibility test. The second is, at the time you apply for the loan, you must be a current contributor. And by a current contributor, we mean that contributions would have been made either by you or on your behalf in the last 3 months. So to use the example you gave, someone contributed 6 months last year, they stopped, life happened, something happened, and contribution ceased. They've also contributed sometime in the past. Fine. They want to get back on track. Just get back on track and start making those payments again. And once you've made 3 months worth of payments in the case of voluntary and PAYE contributors, in the case of self-employed contributors, we're looking for 2 quarterly payments. They make their payments on a quarterly basis, as I indicated earlier. So once we're seeing the 2 quarterly payments for self-employed persons, we're seeing current contributions in the last 3 months for 3 months for PAYE and voluntary contributors, then you're good to go where accessing a loan is concerned.
Robert?
Hi, Dwayne. Wanted
Yes.
to find out. I understand from just my own experience as a contributor that once you make use of a benefit,
Yes.
you cannot reuse that benefit. Is this absolutely the case?
Not absolutely the case. And I'll answer this way. So based on the demand for housing in Jamaica, it's a very, very strong demand that there is for housing in Jamaica. We look at one benefit per person. So the NHT's maximum loan limit currently is $6.5 million, and an individual can access that $6.5 million once. There is a second facility, however, where individuals having access that benefit rather, 15 years ago for the purchase of a house can come back and get a second loan amount to do home improvement purposes to the initial property that they bought, or in the instances where they no longer have that property that they bought through the NHT, then they can use that second loan to purchase a new property. Outside of those arrangements, we do understand that individual circumstances will change, where there may be a breakdown in union,
Yes.
and different examples and different scenarios that could happen to individuals, and we always assess those cases on their individual merits, and we do our assessments and satisfy ourselves. And most times, if there's a genuine case, if there's a genuine need, the NHT will make exceptions and allow that individual to access another benefit. It may not be to the full loan limit that perhaps they got before, but we can have a conversation, we can look at the circumstances, and we can always work something out.
Thanks for that, Dwayne. And I can say from our experience in our practice, we have had instances where we've had husband and wife purchase jointly, joint benefits, and then there is a separation in that union. And
Right.
parties settle. One party remains, with ownership of the property, and the other wants to resettle and buy their own property. And we've seen some flexibility on the part of NHT. And that's one of the things and I can say in my observation with dealing with the NHT, the level of customer service and client ethics has really improved over time. And the whole culture is embracing. And so on that point, one of the things I wanted to find out as well is the processing time, because when we have to go through an application process, particularly in Jamaica, and our diaspora who's used to the cycle time in whether it's the UK or the US or Canada being fairly simple, very little paperwork. How would you describe the process with the NHT?
Where the NHT is concerned, we have a turnaround time where a letter of commitment is concerned. We can have that available to a prospective mortgager in a 24-hour period, and it assumes as well, though, that all the requisite documentation that's required are in place. Once there are no challenges or applications are not incomplete in any way, then we're able to have a 24-hour turnaround time where a letter of commitment is concerned. And a letter of commitment is our good word, is as good as cash that an individual can use. When we look at the general mortgage process, though, the NHT or the mortgage, the finance institution is generally the first stop. There are other moving parts that I'm sure you understand the language, Robert, of a sale agreement giving you up to 90 days or 120 days to complete the process. So where the NHT is concerned, we can have our letter of commitment to you in 24 hours. We can schedule you for a loan interview and have that completed in probably a period of a week, maximum 2 weeks. But thereafter, no, we have to rely on other agencies of government and for the customer to also bring in other documentation to complete the process. Thereafter, though, it could get a little tricky, based on the different processes and the different workflow at the different other agencies. But generally, end to end, I think 90 days is a reasonable expectation where loan processing and general mortgage processing is concerned, from loan to actually registration of the mortgage.
Great.
I have another question. I understand that the NHT do a NHT mortgage, which is different from the 6.5. Is that correct? And if so, can you tell us more about that?
We have, I'm not wondering which one of them are you talking about?
Like,
because we have
go on,
different.
go ahead.
we have different products and we have different facilities that exist to complement the $6.5 million flagship product that we have. So for example, where individuals are purchasing a unit and they have the financing either through NHT or through other institutions, there's generally that challenge associated with finding the deposit, the legal fees, the processing fees, and all of that. We spoke about refunds earlier, that the NHT makes refunds every 8 years. If an individual is purchasing a property today, though, we make those refunds not yet due available to the contributor. And we call it a loan in quotation marks. And it's a loan because they are not yet due. So we're making them available ahead of time to assist with the deposit, which is a challenge for persons. And that's why we do it. So we're refunding 2012, no. But if an individual is buying a house today, we will make contributions available for 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, up to 18, available to offset some of those costs. The NHG also has a loan facility for solar water heater. You know, we're in an age where everybody is trying to cut back on electricity bills. And one of the facilities that we offer is a small loan amount for contributors to be able to install solar water systems, and that is separate from the $6.5 million primary loan that we offer as well. In addition, there is also a microfinance housing facility where we on-lend funds to credit unions, to individuals, to assist with a myriad of housing related expenses, whether ranging from deposits, sorting out titling issues, paying for legal fees or professional services such as surveyors, IDs, valuation reports. And also a big culture in Jamaica, especially rural areas, is incremental construction. So an individual may opt to do just a 1-bedroom this year, and next year they add on another bedroom, and you know, that kind of incremental construction. And they probably have either accessed their primary NHT loan already, or may not want to just yet. So those individuals can go through the credit unions.
In terms of people adding on more rooms onto their property, do they still have to go through that whole planning approval, and does the NHT involve itself?
The NHT involves itself to a limited extent. That aspect of planning, ensuring that there is structural integrity and that there's organized development across the country, that remains the primary focus of the municipal corporation, also referred to as a parish councils, the Town and Planning, and the Town and Planning Act governs that. So individuals who are doing any type of construction activity must make an application to the municipal corporation for approval to the construction, to ensure that they are not doing things like building too close to water tables, ensuring that buildings are of the proper heights and things like that, and ensuring that you're not doing residential in commercial spaces and those kind of regulations that they monitor. The NHT assists because where the plans are concerned, insofar as many individuals perhaps have the land, they have a plan, they have the financing, and they probably want some assistance in terms of housing design. They perhaps can't afford an architect to come in and do these designs for them. The NHT has housing designs that we make available to our contributors free of cost. A combination of studios, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, right up to 3-bedroom housing designs that we make available to our contributors, as I mentioned, free of cost. And those are pre-approved by the the municipal corporation already. So it's just a matter of adding now the other documentation that would be required and bringing it in for approval, because the design and construction type would have already been pre-approved by the NHG. So that's as far as we get in terms of assisting with incremental construction.
Dwayne, is it fair to say that if someone is eligible for an NHD benefit, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will qualify, that there is still a due diligence and credit process that is required?
You are right, Robert. I think a lot of persons oftentimes forget that it is a loan that the NHD provides. And with a loan, there comes underwriting procedures. And one of the primary ones is that the prospective borrower must demonstrate an ability to repay. It would be reckless, and it would be poor financial management by the NHD to be making loans available to individuals who have not demonstrated that they have the ability to repay. So when you mention, yes, you qualify, but there probably are limitations to what you qualify for, you're actually correct, because the maximum loan limit is 6.5 million. But if when we do the due diligence, we look at income and expenditure report, we take into consideration things such as age and of course income, and we realize that really this individual cannot carry a full mortgage of $6.5 million, then the NHG would not lend you $6.5 million. We couldn't. On the flip side though, we don't leave those individuals high and dry. We have grants that we use to assist them. So if we realize that you want to undertake a purchase or construction to the tune of 6.5 million, but when we do your affordability check, you can only afford $4 million. The NHD has grants of up to $2.5 million that the NHD can use to supplement the loan amount. That puts the contributor in good stead. And grants, as its name suggests, it's free money. They don't have to repay that part of it. They would only have to repay the loan. The condition being, though, you cannot get a grant independent of a loan. The grant is really just to top up the loan amount.
Thank you for that, Dwayne. Dwayne, what are some of the things that you would want to apprise our listeners or viewers of, some of the checklist items, some of the issues that you see applicants coming with, that if more attention was paid to these issues, it could improve the processing of their applications?
Right. I'll start with an umbrella one, Robert, that it requires planning. I know many times individuals just say, I want a house. And they think they can walk into the NHT or walk into any mortgage institution, say, hey, I want that house, take the keys off the shelf, and walk out. And it's that simple. No, it doesn't. It requires a plan. It requires a conversation. And I always say, start with a conversation. Conversation with the NHT, with your realtor, with your lawyer. Know what the realities of the market are. Know what are the limitations as it relates to finances or any other factor for you as an individual. So when you go to the market, or when you go in for that loan interview, you go in knowing, you go in with your expectations being managed. And that's always a big place to start. You have to always ensure too that you have proper documentation. Identity fraud is a big deal. And so we have to ensure that Dwayne is Dwayne and Robert is Robert. Mm-hmm. So to do business with the NHG, there are some documents that the NHG require. We require identification, government issued ID, whether it's Jamaica or overseas in the case of individuals living abroad who are voluntary contributors. You must be able to you must have a TRN as well, a tax registration number issued by Tax Administration Jamaica. And you must have an NIS number, that's a National Insurance Scheme number. In the past, it's that little pink card That's equivalent to, I think, it's a social security number in other jurisdictions. But those are three primary pieces of documents that individuals must have. And so sometimes we find you have your ID, yes, you probably have your TRN, but many times persons don't have that NIS card. And we are in a global village now, so not having it is not an issue. You're able to engage with these offices and they're able to assist you, from overseas if you are, in terms of getting you that card and getting you that number. You want to also ensure that you use, I can't stress this enough, qualified, competent professional services, especially if you're undertaking construction. You must. And I know sometimes we rely on, no man, I know Robert built enough house. So Robert can build this one for me. And construction starts and NHD assign you a project officer and we release the first set of funds to you to do the construction, and the project officer comes for evaluation and he's tilting his head like this because the house is lean. Robert has built many houses, but Robert is not a certified contractor, or so you have to ensure. And I see many times individuals getting the short end of the stick because we're probably trying to find the easier way out or the cheaper way out. And I do understand, but in the pursuit of cheap, we have to ensure that we get competence, we get value for money, and we get at the end of the day a unit that's structurally integrous, if that's a word or a phrase, and it's habitable, and you feel safe, and your neighbors are not worried that one day that building is going to topple over. And so those are some of the challenges that we see, from time to time, ensuring that individuals can properly identify themselves and can engage the necessary services to ensure that the process is as smooth and as transparent as possible.
Dwayne, I don't know if you saw both Robert and I laughing. Every episode, we talk about engaging with the professionals. If you have an opportunity to see the other programs we've done, we've talked about that with attorneys, real estate agents, contractors, architects. We say it every episode, work with the professionals. So my other question to you now would be, with COVID, how has it impacted the NHT applications over the last couple of months? And what are the feedback you get?
It has impacted us because it has business goes on. The business goes on. We were in the process of moving some of our services away from being paper-based and face-to-face to being more online. And so we've had to fast track some of those services. For example, individuals doing requesting financing through the NHD, the realtors generally require an eligibility letter. And previously, individuals would have to come in, join the line, bring the pay slips, bring the ID, bring the different TRN, NIS cards, and stand and wait. We're happy now to be able to offer that service online. Yes, we're also very happy to be able to reduce as well the contact time where the customer has to come in branch to do business with the NHD. Generally, they had to, as I mentioned, come for the eligibility letter, then they come back to drop off the documents, then they come back for the loan interview, then they come back to sign. We're saying we love you, but we don't want to see you that much. If we see you just once in the loan process, that's good enough. So we have now a Dropbox where individuals can scan and upload the different reports, the different documents, the different forms are now e-fillable, that individuals can do all of that. And so we only see them one time when they come in to sign that final loan to say, yes, process complete, moving on to the next phase. So those are some of the benefits that have come out of COVID for us. It requires, though, a lot of behavior change, we find. Individuals don't always like and trust online businesses. So culturally, we're not quite there yet in Jamaica, but we continue to work at it. So we find that individuals will still say, I don't trust the online thing. I don't trust the email thing. I want to come in and I'll sit in line and I'll stand in line and do that. So we continue to work on that, though. For our current mortgagers, COVID has presented an opportunity for us to provide some relief to them. The NHT has offered a fresh start facility, that's what we call it. And as its name suggests, it's an opportunity to just wipe the slate clean. And what we allow them to do is to recalculate the interest and the late payments and all of that. Provide in some instances lower interest rates. We perhaps find individuals got a loan 10 years ago when rates were in the teens, and now NHT's highest interest rate is 4%. And so we find if we can reschedule that loan, if we can change the loan terms, then the individual will be better able to manage and make their monthly payments. So our mortgagers who are in arrears have that opportunity up until September to come in and have that conversation with us and get their mortgage back on track. In addition, we've waived the late fees since April 1 up to September 30. We've waived the late fees, and we're also providing to mortgagers who have been either laid off, incomes generally have been impacted by COVID. We're offering moratorium, and we're also offering just an opportunity to reschedule. And I said, look back at the mortgage plan that we currently have for you, and if it is strenuous in any way, see how we can make it better and assist you in terms of meeting your loan obligations to us.
Well, Dwayne, I think that's a very optimistic note for us to end on. We really want to thank you. Clearly, you're on top of, NHT and what the NHT provides. I think the information that you've and clarification that you've been able to provide to ourselves and to our viewers is very and will be very useful. So thanks again for being available. I know, officers at NHT are, particularly in this time, finding it very difficult to manage your time with all the issues that are confronting us. But we want to thank you.
And thank you very much for having me as well. We appreciate opportunities like these to get the message out, to get the word out, and get it out in different areas that we generally aren't able to probably tap and reach effectively. So thanks very much on behalf of the NHT for sharing and for giving us this platform as well to share with your viewers and your listeners. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thanks again. So see you guys next time. It's off Paulette and I, Home on the Way, Jamaica. Thanks again to Dwayne Burbick from the National Housing Trust.
Oh na 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 na, bamba, oh na na.